Commander Xoril's four-fingered hand trembled slightly as he reviewed the sensor data for the third time. The holographic display bathed the command deck in an eerie blue glow, casting long shadows across the faces of his crew. The silence aboard the Concordat vessel, distant observer, was absolute. "Cross-reference these readings with our historical archives," he ordered, his voice unnaturally calm despite the growing unease in his chest cavity. "Check for anomalies or instrument errors." Science Officer Vila moved gracefully to the central console, her slender form nearly transparent under the ship's low-intensity lighting designed for their sensitive eyes. "I've already verified the readings against all known parameters, Commander. There is no error." The quantum signature emanating from the blue-green planet was unmistakable. Somehow, the bipedal primates that dominated Earth had developed technology that should have been centuries beyond their capability. Not only had they created a functioning quantum entanglement communicator, but they had inadvertently tapped into the secure Concordat network that spanned 17 worlds across 6 star systems. "They shouldn't even understand the theoretical principles," muttered Tactical Officer Dorix from his station. Their scientific progress was carefully mapped. This technology was predicted to emerge no earlier than their year 2187. Xoril turned to the viewing portal that offered a real-time glimpse of Earth, hanging like a jewel against the blackness of space. The planet appeared so peaceful from this distance, its swirling cloud patterns and glittering city lights revealing nothing of the existential crisis it had just triggered for the Concordat. "Send an immediate priority transmission to the Council," Xoril ordered. "Classification level Omega. The humans have achieved quantum breakthrough approximately 142 standard cycles ahead of projected timeline." The communications officer's skin flushed a deep purple, their species' involuntary reaction to stress. "Commander, there's more. The human quantum signature contains elements that suggest experimentation." Xoril froze. "Explain." "Based on the signal pattern variations, they appear to be testing different configurations, attempting new applications. They're not just using the technology, they're playing with it." The word "playing" sent a collective shudder through the command deck. Among Concordat species, technological advancement followed strict protocols. New discoveries were approached with caution, tested within controlled parameters, and implemented only after exhaustive safety analyses. The concept of experimentation for its own sake, of taking risks with potentially dangerous technology simply to see what might happen, was considered a sign of dangerous instability. Within hours, the Concordat Council convened an emergency session. The 17 representatives appeared as shimmering projections in the ship's conference chamber, their varied physiologies reflecting the diversity of the Alliance. "The situation presents unprecedented complications," stated High Counselor Zelf Ran, her crystalline exoskeleton refracting light. As she spoke, "Our protocols for pre-integration civilizations are clear. Yet none have ever breached our secure networks before formal contact. The humans must be contained," insisted Counselor Marvox of the methane-breathing Gandari. "Their unpredictability poses an unacceptable risk." The debate raged for hours. Some counselors advocated immediate quarantine of the entire solar system. Others suggested deploying suppression technology to disable Earth's quantum capabilities. The most extreme voices even proposed measures that hadn't been implemented since the Concordat's early days, when they had encountered genuinely hostile civilizations. Finally, Elder Tsan of the ancient Valeri species raised a gnarled appendage for attention. As the oldest living member of the Concordat, his words carried special weight. "We fear what we do not understand," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Perhaps it is time we understood the humans." The final vote surprised everyone, most of all Commander Xoril. Earth would be approached with extreme caution, but approached nonetheless. Dr. Maya Lindstrom was halfway through her morning coffee when the sky above New York City transformed. The massive alien vessel materialized without sound, its sleek obsidian surface absorbing rather than reflecting the morning sunlight. She stood transfixed on her apartment balcony, coffee forgotten in her hand, as similar reports flooded in from Beijing and Cairo. "It's happening," she whispered, a mixture of dread and exhilaration washing over her. As director of the International Space Coalition, she had spent years preparing for this possibility, though most of her colleagues had dismissed her protocols as theoretical exercises. Now, as her secure phone erupted with urgent messages, those preparations would be put to the test. Within 30 minutes, she was inside the United Nations emergency bunker beneath Manhattan, surrounded by screens displaying the global response. What surprised her wasn't the panic that was expected, but rather how quickly humans were adapting to the new reality. Social media engagement has increased 8,000%, reported her digital systems analyst. But it's not just fear. People are organizing civilian observation networks, creating first contact response groups, sharing translation theories. A military advisor leaned forward. We're tracking at least 12 civilian attempts to establish communication with the vessels. Some are using modified radio equipment, others are trying visual signals. Maya nodded. They're doing exactly what we predicted. Humans don't just react, they engage. The alien vessels maintained their position for 6 hours without communication, seemingly observing humanity's response. When the signal finally came, it arrived simultaneously through every electronic device on Earth. A simple mathematical sequence that even a child could recognize as intentional communication. The world's governments scrambled to form a response team. Russia insisted the meeting take place in Moscow. China offered Beijing. The United States proposed neutral Geneva. Military leaders from multiple nations argued over security protocols. Scientists debated communication strategies, and politicians jockeyed for prominent roles in humanity's most important moment. Throughout the chaos, Maya remained focused on one critical fact. The aliens had positioned their vessels above major cities, but their quantum energy signatures indicated their primary interest was elsewhere. During the UN Security Council emergency session, she approached the podium unscheduled, interrupting a heated debate. They're not here for our cities, she stated firmly. Their positioning is misdirection. They detected our quantum entanglement array in Antarctica 3 weeks ago. That's what brought them here. The room fell silent as she displayed classified sensor readings on the main screen. We've been monitoring unusual scanning patterns directed at our research station. Whatever they are, they came because of our breakthrough, not our population centers. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. The Antarctic Quantum Array was one of Earth's most classified projects, a collaboration between 13 nations exploring instantaneous communication technology. I propose we meet them there, Maya continued. At the source of their interest, let them know immediately that we understand why they've come. That would reveal our most advanced technology, objected the Russian representative. Maya's expression hardened. They already know about it. That's why they're here. But they don't know that we know they've been watching us. Psychological advantage matters in first contact scenarios. After hours of debate, the Council reached an unprecedented unanimous decision. Earth would extend an invitation to the visitors, to the very facility that had inadvertently attracted their attention. As Maya boarded the hypersonic transport to Antarctica, she reviewed the limited data on the alien vessels. Their technology was clearly centuries beyond Earth's capabilities, yet something about their cautious approach suggested an emotion she hadn't expected from advanced beings. They were afraid. The Concordat delegation's shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, its advanced stabilization systems compensating for the turbulent Antarctic winds. Inside, Ambassador Krell reviewed final diplomatic protocols with his team of 7 specialists, each selected for expertise in first contact scenarios. Remember, the humans are primitive but unpredictable, he cautioned. Their history suggests violent tendencies when threatened, showed no signs of aggression or fear. Science Officer Vila adjusted her environmental suit, designed to protect against Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere and extreme cold. Their choice of meeting location is puzzling. This region experiences temperatures that would be lethal to most intelligent species. Perhaps a display of dominance, suggested cultural specialist Seth. demonstrating their ability to survive in hostile conditions. Through the shuttle's viewports, the vast white landscape of Antarctica stretched endlessly below them. The research facility appeared suddenly, a sprawling complex of interconnected structures half buried in ice, with various antenna arrays and satellite dishes protruding from the surface. The shuttle landed on a designated pad where a small group of humans waited. Despite the howling wind and temperatures of -40 degrees, the welcoming committee wore only modestly insulated clothing, simple parkas and face coverings rather than full environmental suits. Ambassador Krell's tertiary heart quickened its rhythm, an involuntary response to stress. These creatures casually endured conditions that would kill most concordat species within minutes without specialized protection. The delegation exited through the shuttle's airlock, immediately assaulted by the bitter cold despite their advanced suits. Dr. Maya Lindstrom stepped forward, her breath visible in the frigid air. "On behalf of Earth, welcome," she said simply, extending a gloved hand in the human greeting gesture. Krell hesitated before mimicking the motion, surprised by the firm pressure of her grip. "We are honored by your invitation," he replied through his translator, "though your choice of location is unexpected." Maya's smile was visible even through her facial covering. "We thought you might be interested in seeing what brought you to our world in the first place." The subtle shift in the ambassador's posture wasn't visible to human eyes, but the members of his delegation noticed immediately. The humans knew. Somehow, they had detected the concordat surveillance. Inside the facility, the aliens were escorted through gleaming corridors where scientists from dozens of Earth nations worked in apparent harmony. The delegation's environmental sensors discreetly analyzed everything: atmospheric composition, radiation levels, biological signatures. The readings were disturbing. The humans maintained this complex environment in one of their planet's most hostile regions, with technology far more primitive than the Concordat had expected. They arrived at a massive reinforced door marked with warning symbols. Dr. Lindstrom placed her palm on a scanner, and the barrier slid open to reveal the quantum entanglement array, the technology that had inadvertently breached the Concordat's secure network. "This is our quantum communication initiative," Maya explained casually, "originally designed to maintain instantaneous contact with our Mars outpost." Ambassador Krell froze mid-step. Mars outpost. A large display screen activated, showing live footage of a domed settlement on the red planet's surface. Human figures moved about inside the structure, engaged in various activities. Established 3 years ago, Maya continued, watching the aliens carefully. "Would you like to speak with them?" The quantum link allows real-time communication. The delegation exchanged alarmed glances. According to their intelligence, humans shouldn't have achieved planetary colonization for at least another decade. Yet here they were, casually mentioning an established off-world presence, as if it were unremarkable. "Your species continues to surprise us," Krell said carefully. "Perhaps you could explain how this quantum technology functions. Our scientists are curious about its development." Maya's expression remained pleasant, but her eyes hardened slightly. "Of course, though I suspect you already know more than you're admitting. After all, we didn't find your communication network by accident. You found us." The diplomatic discussions had progressed for nearly 3 hours in the facility's conference room. Ambassador Krell was carefully avoiding direct answers about the Concordat surveillance of Earth, while Dr. Lindstrom equally carefully avoided revealing how much humanity had already deduced about their visitors. It was an elaborate dance of half-truths and strategic omissions from both sides. That's when the alarms began. A piercing wail echoed through the complex, followed by flashing red emergency lights. The alien delegation stiffened, some reaching instinctively for concealed devices. "What deception is this?" Krell demanded, his translator unable to fully mask the stress harmonics in his voice. Dr. Lindstrom raised her hands in a calming gesture. "No deception. It's a Category 5 polar storm. They'd form quickly this time of year." She activated the wall display, showing satellite imagery of a massive weather system engulfing the research station. Science Officer Vila moved to examine the readings. These wind velocities exceed the structural tolerance parameters of most artificial constructions, she noted with alarm, including our shuttle. As if confirming her assessment, the facility shuddered violently. Distant crashing sounds echoed through the corridors. Section 3 breach, announced a voice over the intercom. Emergency protocols activated. All personnel to Central Hub. Dr. Lindstrom immediately took charge. This way, she directed, leading the increasingly agitated aliens through the corridor. The Central Hub is reinforced to withstand winds up to 400 kilometers per hour. Tactical Officer Dorix leaned close to Krell. This storm exceeds the safety parameters of our vessel, he whispered. We are effectively stranded until it passes. The human staff moved with practiced efficiency, securing equipment and assisting others. There was no panic, no confusion, just well-rehearsed emergency procedures being implemented methodically. This happens every few months, explained a young technician as she helped guide the aliens through a reinforced doorway. The climate's been weird since the 2030s. You get used to it. The casual acceptance of such extreme conditions stunned the Concordat delegates. On their worlds, environmental risks were engineered away through atmosphere control systems and predictive terraforming. The concept of getting used to regular life-threatening weather events was alien to them in every sense. The Central Hub was crowded with station personnel. The power fluctuated, plunging the room into darkness for several seconds before emergency lighting activated. Main generators down, called out the facility's engineer, switching to backup systems. Without prompting, several staff members began distributing emergency supplies, while others monitored structural integrity sensors. No one waited for instructions. Each person seemed to know exactly what needed to be done. A massive crash shook the entire structure. The intercom crackled to life. Section 5 collapse. 3 personnel trapped in the communications array. Before Krell could process this information, 3 humans immediately donned extreme weather gear hanging by the exit. "What are you doing?" demanded the ambassador as they prepared to venture into the storm. "Going to get our people," replied one of them, a stocky woman with a Russian accent. Her tone suggested the answer was so obvious that the question itself was strange. Dr. Lindstrom nodded to the rescue team. "Standard protocol. 15 minutes maximum exposure. We'll maintain communication link." As the team disappeared into the howling maelstrom outside, Ambassador Krell turned to Dr. Lindstrom with genuine confusion. "You're sending them into conditions that your own systems indicate are lethal." "We don't leave our people behind," she replied simply. "But the risk assessment," Krell began. "Doesn't matter," Lindstrom interrupted. "They might die if we do nothing. They might die trying to save them. But we always try." Cultural specialist Zeth, who had been quietly observing, approached Krell. "Ambassador," he said in their native language, untranslated for the humans, "I believe we've significantly underestimated the psychological differences between our species. Their risk calculation includes variables our models don't account for." Outside, the storm raged with increasing fury, while inside, the aliens watched with growing unease as humans calmly faced conditions that would have triggered evacuation protocols on any Concordat world. The rescue team returned 47 minutes later, far beyond their 15-minute maximum exposure. They carried 3 injured colleagues and, surprisingly, 2 damaged Concordat delegation members whose environmental suits had malfunctioned during the facility collapse. The storm had intensified beyond all predictions, battering the research station with winds that threatened the structural integrity of even the reinforced Central Hub. Dr. Elena Santos, the facility's chief physician, immediately took charge of the makeshift medical bay. Her team worked with practiced efficiency, triaging patients regardless of species. "Get me a thermal regulator for the humans," she ordered. "And someone find me anything we have on xenobiology. Now." Medical Officer Trizix watched in stunned silence as the human doctor began treating his injured colleagues without hesitation, despite having no knowledge of their physiology. "You cannot possibly understand their biological systems," he finally protested, moving to intervene. Dr. Santos barely glanced up from her work. "Then help me understand. Quickly," she gestured to her assistant. "Their core temperature is dropping, and these skin formations are changing color. What does that indicate?" Reluctantly, Trizix joined her. "It signifies systemic shock. Their regulatory systems are failing. Working together, they stabilize the injured aliens using a combination of concordat medical principles and improvised human solutions." Santos adapted with remarkable speed, applying entirely new biological concepts as if she'd studied them for years rather than minutes. Later, as the injured rested, Trizix found himself examining the facility's medical database with growing disbelief. "Your species deliberately introduces weakened pathogens into your bodies?" he asked, scrolling through vaccination records. "You intentionally expose yourselves to disease." "Vaccines," Santos nodded, checking a patient's vital signs. "We train our immune systems by giving them practice targets." The concept horrified Trizix. Concordat species maintain sterile environments, specifically to avoid pathogen exposure. The idea of willingly introducing even modified disease agents into one's body was almost incomprehensible. His shock deepened as he continued exploring human medical practices. These substances, alcohol, caffeine, these medications, they're all technically poisons. You knowingly consume toxins. In controlled amounts, Santos replied. Many have beneficial effects in the right doses. Others just make life more enjoyable. You risk cellular damage for enjoyment. Santos smiled as she checked another monitor. Living involves risk. We manage it rather than avoid it. The most disturbing discovery came when Trizix observed a human patient consuming a protein bar during recovery. This food contains billions of living microorganisms, he noted, scanning the yogurt coating. Yet you ingest them deliberately. Probiotics, Santos explained. They help maintain our gut biome. We're actually host to trillions of microorganisms. They're essential to our digestion and immune function. Trizix's sensory appendages flattened against his head, a sign of extreme distress in his species. You cultivate other life forms within your bodies. We couldn't survive without them. Our bodies are ecosystems, not isolated systems. The alien medical officer retreated to process this information. Among concordat species, bodily purity was fundamental. Their medical technology focused on isolation, sterilization, and protection from external biological influences. Humans, by contrast, seem to thrive on biological interaction, deliberately exposing themselves to controlled threats to strengthen their responses. He rejoined Ambassador Krell, who was conferring with the delegation in a private alcove. Their medical officer has stabilized our injured, Trizix reported. But I must share some disturbing findings about human physiology. He transmitted his data to the others, whose reactions ranged from disbelief to horror. These beings deliberately poison themselves to build resistance, Krell summarized. They host colonies of other organisms within their bodies. They routinely expose themselves to near-lethal conditions. Cultural specialist Zeth made a gesture of deep concern. It explains much about their behavior. They don't avoid threats, they adapt to them. They don't flee from dangers, they incorporate them. Science Officer Vila's voice was hushed as she completed the thought. They don't just survive adversity, they'd weaponize it against future challenges. As repairs to the facility and the Concordat shuttle progressed, Ambassador Krell proposed a cultural exchange to fill the waiting time. The aliens offered access to selected educational materials from their civilization through a portable version of their knowledge matrix. In return, they requested examples of human literature, entertainment, and educational materials. Dr. Lindstrom agreed readily. We've prepared a comprehensive cultural package in anticipation of first contact. It includes representative works from our major civilizations and time periods. The exchange was arranged in the facility's common area, where both species could interact with each other's cultural artifacts. Neither side anticipated the profound impact this seemingly simple gesture would create. Professor Henley Chen, the facility's cultural anthropologist, guided the alien delegation through humanity's offering, a curated collection of books, films, music, and digital archives spanning Earth's history. Meanwhile, human scientists eagerly accessed the Concordat Knowledge Matrix, an immersive learning environment containing carefully selected scientific and cultural information. Within hours, both groups had retreated to separate spaces, visibly disturbed by what they had discovered. Their knowledge base is incredibly detailed, reported Dr. Yusuf Ibrahim, lead physicist. But there's something odd about it. Everything proceeds in perfect logical progression. No intuitive leaps, no competing theories, no false starts or dead ends. It's like they only record the correct answers, agreed Dr. Chen. There's no process, no debate, no messiness. Across the facility, the Concordat delegation was experiencing a more profound shock. Cultural specialist Seth had been tasked with analyzing human entertainment media and was struggling to maintain professional composure. They create elaborate simulations of events that never occurred, he explained to the others. Not for training or preparation, but for entertainment. They call it fiction. Ambassador Krell examined a copy of Shakespeare's collected works. These are deliberate fabrications. For what purpose? They claim it helps them understand themselves and others. They experience emotional responses to scenarios they know aren't real. Science Officer Vila had been analyzing human music and appeared equally disturbed. Their sound patterns trigger neurological responses far beyond communication. Test subjects exposed to human music experienced involuntary hormonal and electrical changes in brain activity. Is it a form of control mechanism? Krell asked. No, Vila replied, clearly struggling with the concept. They create these patterns purely for emotional stimulation. For pleasure. The most unsettling discovery came when Zeth observed a group of off-duty humans engaged in what they called a role-playing game. Without any technology beyond paper and oddly shaped dice, they collectively imagined an alternate reality, each adopting fictional personas within an entirely fabricated scenario. They're creating a shared hallucination, he reported, his voice frequencies indicating deep unease. Voluntarily, collectively, without technological assistance. Ambassador Krell called an emergency consultation. We've significantly underestimated these beings, he told his delegation. Their minds work in ways our predictive models cannot account for. Their creativity exceeds anything in the Concordat database, Vila confirmed. They routinely imagine scenarios with no basis in observed reality. They find connections between unrelated concepts that our most advanced computational systems wouldn't correlate. Communications specialist Merrickx, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. Ambassador, I've analyzed their global information network, what they call the Internet. It contains more simulated realities, fictional scenarios, and speculative thinking than actual information. They spend more resources imagining what could be than documenting what is. The implications settled heavily on the delegation, a species that could imagine endless possibilities, that could conceive of things that had never existed, that found pattern connections where none were logically indicated. Such a species would be fundamentally unpredictable. No wonder our models failed to anticipate their technological development, Krell said quietly. We cannot predict the actions of beings who routinely think beyond the boundaries of established reality. 3 days after their arrival, the storm finally subsided enough for repairs to be completed on both the research facility and the Concordat shuttle. Relations between the two species had stabilized into cautious diplomacy, with both sides carefully controlling what information they shared. Dr. Lindstrom was reviewing satellite data in her private office when Ambassador Krell requested an urgent meeting. Something in the alien's demeanor suggested this wouldn't be another carefully choreographed exchange of half-truths. I am authorized to share information that explains our presence in your solar system, Krell began once they were alone. His translator seemed to struggle with certain concepts, creating unusual pauses in his speech. Our surveillance of your planet was not motivated by standard first contact protocols. Maya leaned forward. I suspected as much. What's the real reason, Ambassador? The alien activated a holographic projector, displaying a three-dimensional map of the Milky Way galaxy, a wave of disturbing energy, rendered in pulsing red, spread across one quadrant, consuming star systems in its path. We call it the Void Cascade, Krell explained. Approximately 20 of your years ago, a cluster of black holes in the Cygnus arm underwent simultaneous collapse, creating a wave of destructive energy that defies our understanding of physics. A hologram zoomed in, showing the wave's projected path directly toward Earth, and beyond it, Concordat space. Our calculations indicate it will reach your solar system in approximately 30 Earth years, and our territories shortly after. Maya studied the projection, her scientific mind immediately grasping the implications. This is an extinction-level event. For both our civilizations, yes. Krell's normally rigid posture seemed to slump slightly. The Concordat has dedicated all resources to finding a solution. 17 species, thousands of worlds, our most advanced technologies, all focused on stopping or diverting the cascade. We have failed. Every approach, every theory, every attempt has proven futile. And you came to us for help. Maya couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. Our technology is centuries behind yours. Krell's response wasn't what she expected. We came because of the anomalies. Your species consistently defies our predictive models. When we incorporated human variables into our simulations of the cascade, unexpected statistical aberrations appeared. Solutions that our scientists had dismissed as impossible suddenly registered low probabilities of success. The ambassador manipulated the hologram, showing complex equations Maya couldn't begin to understand. Something about human cognition, your creativity, your illogical intuitive leaps, your willingness to pursue statistically improbable solutions, creates possibilities our most advanced systems cannot generate independently. Maya sat back, processing this revelation. You're saying we think differently enough that we might see solutions your people can't. More than that, Krell replied. Your species embraces chaos rather than seeking to eliminate it. You find patterns in randomness. You pursue possibilities despite overwhelming statistical evidence of failure. These traits are precisely what our approach has lacked. He deactivated the hologram, his alien features impossible to read. The Concordat Council debated extensively whether to share this information. Many argued that giving primitive beings like humans advanced knowledge was too dangerous. Others feared you might use the Cascades approach to extract concessions or technology from us. But you decided to tell me anyway, Maya noted. Yes. Krell's translator struggled to convey the complex emotional harmonics in his voice, because our final analysis suggested something unexpected. The probability is higher that humans would choose to help save both our civilizations than to exploit the situation for advantage. He leaned forward, his compound eyes fixed on hers. And that, Dr. Lindstrom, is perhaps the most terrifying thing we've discovered about your species. You often choose cooperation when every logical calculation suggests self-interest would be more advantageous. The United Nations Security Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every nation stood shoulder to shoulder along the walls, while the main table seated only the most powerful world leaders. Ambassador Krell and 3 Concordat delegates occupied specially constructed seats at one end of the horseshoe-shaped table. Dr. Maya Lindstrom had just finished presenting the data on the Void Cascade, including the projected timeline for Earth's destruction. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the approaching wave of energy, creeping inexorably toward their solar system. This information has been independently verified by our top scientists, she concluded. The threat is real, and it will reach us in approximately 30 years. The chamber erupted into overlapping voices. Accusations, questions, demands. Some suspected an alien deception. Others argued for immediate access to concordat technology regardless of the cost. Several military leaders suggested weaponizing the research to ensure human survival, even if the concordat perished. Ambassador Krell observed the chaos with a familiar sensation of unease. Human deliberations always seemed so disordered, so emotional, compared to the logical progression of concordat decision-making. The Secretary General finally restored order. Dr. Kenyatta, I understand your team has been analyzing the concordat's data on previous attempts to counter the cascade. Please share your findings. Dr. Abasi Kenyatta approached the podium. The young Kenyan physicist had been leading a multinational team reviewing the aliens' failed solutions. The concordat's approaches have been comprehensive and logically sound, he began. They've attempted energy dispersion fields, space-time manipulation, and even the creation of artificial counterwaves. Each approach was meticulously calculated, perfectly engineered, and ultimately unsuccessful. He paused, looking directly at the alien delegation. And therein lies the problem. They've been too perfect, too logical, too predictable. Murmurs spread through the chamber as Dr. Kenyatta continued. The void cascade appears to adapt to conventional countermeasures. It's almost as if the wave learns from each attempt to stop it. He activated his own display, showing a complex simulation. My team proposes something the concordat rejected as statistically non-viable, using the quantum entanglement technology that brought our species together to create a cascading feedback loop in the wave itself. The simulation showed multiple quantum signals creating a chaotic interference pattern within the approaching energy wave. It's like fighting fire with fire, Kenyatta explained. Or more accurately, fighting chaos with deliberate chaos. Every simulation says it shouldn't work, but as our alien friends have discovered, human simulations sometimes include variables their models don't account for. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The plan required resources beyond anything humanity had developed, but the concordat could provide them. What they couldn't provide was the human approach, the willingness to attempt the seemingly impossible. After hours of debate, the vote was finally taken. Earth would join forces with the concordat, pooling knowledge and resources to combat the void cascade. The aliens would share technology. Humans would share their unique perspective and approach to problem-solving. As the historic session concluded, Ambassador Krell approached Dr. Lindstrom privately. "There is something I haven't shared with your leaders," he said quietly. "Something that truly terrifies my people about humans." Maya waited expectantly. Your species faces problems by embracing chaos rather than eliminating it. You thrive on uncertainty and trust instincts over data. By all rational standards, you should have destroyed yourselves long ago. The ambassador's alien features shifted in what Maya had learned to recognize as their equivalent of a rueful smile. Instead, those same traits may save us all. We fear you because you succeed where logic fails, because you find paths where none should exist. The concordat has always believed that the universe operates according to rules that, once understood, can be manipulated predictably. Your existence challenges our most fundamental beliefs about reality itself. Maya considered this for a moment before responding. Perhaps that's why we're meeting now. The universe needed both our approaches to face what's coming. Perhaps, Krell agreed. Though I must warn you, if we succeed, the galaxy will never be the same. A universe with humans as a major power is an unpredictable one indeed. Would you want it any other way? Maya asked with a smile. The ambassador's silence was answer enough.